Have you ever felt angry, sad, or anxious and asked yourself, why do I feel this way and why can I not control it? Have you ever promised yourself to stay calm, but in just a few seconds, your emotions took over and you reacted in a way you later regretted? If this sounds familiar, you are not alone, and today we will talk about this gently, slowly, and with understanding. Welcome to this quiet moment where you learn English while learning about yourself. Today, we talk about how to master your emotions. Emotions are a natural part of being human. You feel happy when something good happens. You feel sad when something important is lost. You feel angry when you think something is unfair, and you feel fear when you believe something bad might happen. These emotions are not bad, they are messages, but many people suffer because they believe emotions control them. They say things like, I cannot help it, this is just how I feel, but the truth is emotions do not control you. You experience emotions, but you are not your emotions. This is one of the most important ideas you need to understand. An emotion is something that happens inside you. It comes, it stays for a while, and then it leaves. Just like clouds in the sky. You are the sky, not the cloud. When you understand this, your relationship with emotions slowly changes. Many people try to fight their emotions. They try to push them away. They say, I should not feel this way. They feel guilty for feeling sad. They feel weak for feeling afraid. They feel ashamed for feeling angry. But resisting emotions only makes them stronger. When you fight an emotion, you give it more attention. And what you give attention to grows. Instead of fighting emotions, you need to understand them. You need to listen to them without letting them control your actions. This is what emotional mastery means. It does not mean you never feel negative emotions. It means you learn how to respond instead of reacting. Reaction is automatic. Response is conscious. When something happens, your brain reacts fast. This part of the brain wants to protect you. It looks for danger. It remembers pain from the past. So when a situation feels similar, it sends a strong emotion. For example, someone criticizes you. Your brain remembers past criticism. It remembers embarrassment or pain, and suddenly you feel angry or hurt. This happens very fast, before you even think. But just because an emotion appears does not mean you must act on it. There is always a small space between emotion and action. In that space, you have a choice. Most people do not see this space. They feel, and then they act. They shout. They say things they regret. They close themselves off. They give up. But when you become more aware, this space becomes clearer. And the clearer it becomes, the more power you have. One of the first steps to mastering your emotions is awareness. You must notice what you feel, not judge it, just notice it. You can say quietly to yourself, I feel angry right now, or I feel anxious right now. This simple act already creates distance. You are no longer inside the emotion, you are observing it. This observation weakens the emotion not immediately but slowly. Think about a time when you were very emotional. Maybe you were angry. At that moment it felt very real, very strong. But hours later, or days later, that emotion was gone. You might even wonder why you felt that way. This shows you something important. Emotions are temporary. They feel permanent when you are inside them, but they are not. Understanding this helps you not panic when emotions appear. You stop saying, this will never end. Instead, you say, this feeling will pass, and it always does. Another important idea is that emotions come from thoughts, not directly from events. Two people can experience the same situation and feel very different emotions. One person loses a job and feels hopeless, another loses a job and feels motivated to start something new. The event is the same. The thoughts are different. And because thoughts are different, emotions are different. This means emotions are not caused by the world, they are caused by how you interpret the world. This is very powerful because while you cannot always control what happens, you can learn to influence how you think. Many thoughts happen automatically. You do not choose them, but you can question them. For example, when something goes wrong, you might think, I am a failure. This thought creates sadness or shame. But is it true? Is one mistake enough to define your whole life? When you gently question your thoughts, emotions lose their power. You are not forcing positive thinking. You are choosing realistic thinking. This is an important difference. Mastering emotions does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means seeing things clearly. Another reason emotions feel strong is because we attach meaning to them. You might think feeling anxious means I am weak, or feeling sad means something is wrong with me. But emotions are signals, they are not labels. Feeling anxious means something feels uncertain. Feeling sad means something matters to you. Feeling angry means a boundary feels crossed. When you see emotions as information, you stop fearing them. You start learning from them. But learning does not mean obeying. You can listen without following. For example, anger might tell you something feels unfair. You can acknowledge that and still choose a calm response. You do not need to shout to set a boundary. You do not need to explode to be heard. Calm strength is much more powerful. Another key idea is emotional responsibility. This means understanding that your emotions are your responsibility, not other people's. People may say things, situations may happen, but your emotional reaction belongs to you. This does not mean blaming yourself. It means taking back your power. When you say, you made me angry, you give control away. When you say, I feel angry because of how I see this situation, you take control back. This shift changes everything. You stop waiting for others to change so you can feel better. You start changing how you respond. This is freedom. But emotional mastery is not fast. It takes practice. Just like learning a language, you do not become fluent in one day. You make mistakes. You repeat. You slowly improve. Some days you will react. Some days you will forget. That is okay. Progress is not about perfection. It is about awareness growing over time. Another important part of emotional mastery is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean liking what you feel. It means allowing it to be there. When you accept an emotion, you stop feeding it with resistance. You stop saying, this should not be happening. You say, this is happening right now. And strangely, acceptance often makes emotions pass faster. Because there is no fight, there is no tension, just experience. And experience naturally changes. You can practice this by breathing. When an emotion appears, focus on your breath, slow and gentle. Breathing tells your body you are safe. When the body relaxes, emotions soften. You do not need to force calm. Calm comes when you stop fighting. As you continue learning, you may notice patterns. Certain situations trigger the same emotions. This is very useful information. It shows you where growth is needed. Instead of judging yourself, you can be curious. You can ask, why does this situation affect me so much? What belief is behind this feeling? This gentle curiosity is the path to emotional intelligence. Over time, you will notice something beautiful. Emotions still appear, but they no longer control your life. You feel them, you understand them, and you let them pass. You become more peaceful, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. And this is where true strength comes from, not from suppressing emotions, not from being cold, but from being aware, calm, and conscious. As you continue listening, remember that mastering emotions is not about changing who you are. It is about understanding how your inner world works. Many people believe their emotions define their personality. They say things like, I am an angry person, or I am an anxious person. But this is not true. You are not an emotion. You experience emotions. When you attach emotions to your identity, they become stronger. If you believe you are an anxious person, your mind looks for reasons to feel anxious. It becomes a habit. But when you say, I feel anxious sometimes, everything changes. Sometimes means it comes and goes. It is not permanent. This small change in language has a big effect. Your words shape how you see yourself, and how you see yourself shapes how you feel. Another important idea is emotional habits. Just like physical habits, emotional habits are learned. If you grew up in an environment where people reacted with anger, you may have learned anger as a response. If you grew up around fear, you may have learned worry. This does not mean something is wrong with you. It means you learned patterns that once helped you survive, but what helped you before may now hold you back. The good news is habits can be changed, but first they must be seen. Most emotional reactions happen automatically. They feel natural, but natural does not mean permanent. When you start noticing repeated emotional reactions, you begin to see your emotional conditioning. This awareness is powerful because you cannot change what you do not see. When an emotion appears again and again, pause and observe. Do not judge, just notice. Notice what thought came before the emotion. Notice what meaning you gave to the situation. Over time, patterns become clear, and clarity brings choice. Another reason emotions feel overwhelming is because people seek happiness in external things. They believe happiness comes from success, approval, money, or relationships. When these things are present, they feel good. When they disappear, emotions crash. This creates emotional dependency. Your emotional state goes up and down with circumstances. This is exhausting. True emotional mastery comes from inner stability. This means learning to feel okay even when things are uncertain. It does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop tying your self-worth to outcomes. You can enjoy success without needing it. You can accept failure without destroying yourself. This inner balance takes time to build, but it starts with letting go of emotional attachment. Attachment is the belief that you need something to feel whole. When you believe this, fear appears. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of rejection. But when you understand that your value does not depend on conditions, fear slowly loses power. Another important teaching is about expectation. Many emotional struggles come from expectations. You expect people to behave a certain way. You expect life to be fair. You expect things to go according to plan. When reality does not match expectations, frustration appears. Disappointment appears, anger appears. Expectations are not bad, but unconscious expectations cause suffering. When you become aware of them, emotions soften. Instead of saying, "This should not happen," you say, "This is happening, and now I choose how to respond." This shift brings peace. Another key idea is emotional energy. Emotions are energy moving through the body. When you resist them, energy gets stuck. This creates tension. This is why emotions feel heavy. When you allow emotions to move, they pass. Crying releases sadness. Breathing releases anxiety. Movement releases stress. The body knows how to process emotions. The problem is when the mind interferes, when the mind keeps repeating the story. The story feeds the emotion, and the emotion feeds the story. This creates a loop. To break the loop, return to the body. Feel the breath, feel the sensations. This brings you back to the present moment, and emotions live in the present, not in imagined futures and not in remembered past. Another important part of emotional mastery is patience. You cannot rush emotional growth. Trying to force calm creates more tension. Trying to control emotions creates resistance. Growth happens when you allow yourself to be human. Some days you will feel strong, and some days you will feel weak. Both are part of the journey. Instead of judging your emotional state, accept it. Acceptance creates space. Space creates clarity. Clarity creates choice. Choice creates freedom. This is the natural process. Many people believe confidence means never feeling fear, but confidence is feeling fear and moving forward anyway. Courage is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to act despite emotion. When you stop trying to eliminate fear, it loses power. Fear becomes a signal, not a wall. Another important teaching is about emotional triggers. Triggers are situations that create strong emotional reactions. They often connect to past experiences. When a trigger appears, the emotion feels intense. But the present moment is not the real cause the past is speaking. Understanding this helps you respond with compassion. Instead of blaming the situation, you can heal the root. Healing does not mean forgetting. It means releasing emotional charge. This happens slowly through awareness, through feeling without resistance, through understanding without judgment. As emotional mastery grows, you may notice your reactions slow down. You pause more. You speak less. You listen more. Silence becomes comfortable. This is not weakness. This is strength, because you no longer need to prove yourself emotionally. You are secure inside, and when you are secure, emotions flow naturally. They do not control you. They inform you. This is emotional intelligence. This is inner leadership. You become the calm presence in your own life, not because life is calm, but because you are. It is important to understand that emotional mastery is a lifelong practice. It is not something you achieve once and keep forever. Emotions will return. Old patterns may appear again. This does not mean you failed. It means you are human. The difference now is awareness. You see what is happening inside you, and seeing is already a form of control. One of the most powerful long-term practices is emotional consistency. This means creating a stable inner environment, not depending on motivation and not depending on mood, but depending on understanding. When you understand your emotional patterns, you are less surprised by them. Surprise often creates strong reactions, but familiarity creates calm. When an emotion appears and you recognize it, it feels less threatening. You say, "I know this feeling. I have felt it before and I survived." This simple recognition brings strength. Another important part of long-term emotional mastery is discipline. Not harsh discipline, but gentle discipline. This means choosing helpful responses again and again, even when emotions are strong, especially when emotions are strong. Discipline is what allows growth to continue. Without discipline, awareness stays passive. With discipline, awareness becomes action. This does not mean forcing yourself, it means choosing what supports peace. Over time, these choices become natural. Another key idea is emotional recovery. No matter how skilled you become, you will sometimes react. You may say something you regret. You may feel overwhelmed. What matters is not the reaction. What matters is how quickly you recover. Recovery means returning to awareness, returning to the present, letting go of self-judgment. Self-judgment keeps emotions stuck. Kindness releases them. When you forgive yourself quickly, emotions pass faster. This builds resilience. Resilience is the ability to return to balance, not the absence of struggle. People who master emotions are not perfect. They are resilient. They bend and return. Another important teaching is emotional honesty. Mastery does not mean hiding emotions. It means being honest with yourself. If you feel tired, admit it. If you feel sad, allow it. If you feel confused, accept it. Honesty prevents inner conflict. When you deny emotions, they fight back. When you accept them, they relax. This honesty creates inner trust. You begin to trust yourself emotionally. This trust brings peace. Another part of long-term mastery is choosing your emotional environment. Your environment affects your emotions. The content you consume, the people you spend time with, the conversations you have, all of these shape your emotional state. This does not mean avoiding life. It means being intentional. You choose what nourishes you. You limit what drains you. This is not selfish. It is responsible, because your emotional state affects everything you do, your work, your relationships, your health. Protecting your inner peace is a form of wisdom. Another powerful idea is meaning. When life feels meaningful, emotions feel manageable. Even difficult emotions become bearable. But when life feels empty, emotions feel heavy. Meaning does not come from comfort. It comes from growth, from learning, from contributing. When you connect your actions to values, emotions align. You feel grounded even during uncertainty. This inner grounding supports emotional stability. Another long-term practice is reflection, taking quiet moments to reflect on your emotional experiences, not to analyze deeply, but to understand gently. What did I feel today? What triggered it? How did I respond? And what did I learn? This reflection turns life into a teacher. Every emotional experience becomes useful. This mindset transforms challenges into growth. Over time, you may notice that your emotional baseline changes. You feel calmer, more stable, less reactive. not because emotions disappeared, but because you are no longer afraid of them. Fear of emotions creates chaos. Trust in emotions creates flow. You trust yourself to handle what comes, and this trust is freedom. Now let us talk about peace. Peace is not the absence of emotion. Peace is the absence of resistance. When you stop resisting yourself, peace appears naturally. This is the deepest form of emotional mastery, not control but harmony. You and your emotions working together, emotions guiding and awareness leading. This balance creates a quiet confidence, a calm strength. You no longer chase happiness. You no longer fear sadness, you learn from it. You no longer avoid discomfort, you grow through it. And slowly, life feels lighter, not easier but lighter. Because you are no longer carrying unnecessary emotional weight. As we come to the end of this episode, take a slow breath. Notice where you are. Notice how you feel. You are learning something important, and this learning will continue beyond this moment. Mastering your emotions is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more yourself, calm, aware, and free. Thank you for listening. Take care of your inner world, and I will be here with you again in the next gentle conversation.